Hello, my name is Antonio Ramos. Today I'm going to talk to you about leadership, but I'm going to do it within the context of the movie Crimson Tide. I'm going to begin by talking to you about Captain Ramsey and his leadership style, and then the Lieutenant Commander Hunter's leadership style. I'm going to follow that up by telling you which style I would emulate, and I'll ultimately end with describing a scene within the movie and talk about the followership styles that went on within that scene. So first, just talking about Captain Ramsey and his leadership style. His personality is he seems to be very abrasive. He's brilliant, but he's very cocky. I get the idea that he's more of a John Wayne type of person because it seems as if what he wants is what he's gonna get, and anyone that tries to challenge him is not gonna be on his good side. An example of that I kind of got earlier on in the movie is when he questioned Hunter as to whether or not the United States should have dropped the Hiroshima bomb. And so Hunter was just kind of he was avoiding the question. He answered it very calmly. And so the fact that Ramsey appreciated that showed that he expected someone to be subordinate to him. I consider him to be ultimately a very autocratic leader. That's his leadership style, and the reason for that is because he's more. So we talked about task orientation behaviors, and relationship oriented behaviors. So he seems to definitely be a lot more task oriented. Throughout the movie, we saw examples of where he just wanted to get things done, and he wanted it to be done his way. Another example of that is, for example, the emergency action message. That was in that precise example, he didn't want any kind of challenge. He knew that the missile had to be launched, and he wanted to do it regardless of what XO Hunter said. So I think that the reason he even has power to begin with is because he has legitimate power. He's the captain. People are going to follow him regardless, and he also has expert power. Uh, he's been in the Navy for a long time. What he says goes. That's the reason why he has power. Now, when you compare that with Hunter, he's someone who's more mature. He's a lot more humble. He's very relaxed. Earlier on in the semester, we talked about self-management, and we also talked about relationship management. We talked about being self-aware. Hunter's a man who's very self-aware. He knows how to control his emotions. He's very good at relationship management. An early example of that I saw was when Rivetti was in a fight over the Silver Surfer, who was the true Silver Surfer. Instead of getting onto him, he actually kind of related to him and said, obviously, yada 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 is the true Silver Surfer. And Rivetti kind of just appreciated that, and he seemed to just kind of look up to Hunter as someone who was almost like a friend. And later on in the movie, when he got the keys from Hunter, it just seemed to make that relationship, that bond, even stronger. So I consider him to be more. He's more of a delegative leader. Uh, Simply because that is his position. He's in a higher superior position, so he's going to delegate things to be done, but he does it with a more relationship management approach as compared to Ramsey, who just does it the complete opposite, and he seems to be more task oriented. And I feel as if the reason he has the power that he has is because he has referent power. People get along with him. He follows the rules. So an example was during the EAM incident. So Cobb actually went along with Hunter because Hunter was actually following the book as opposed to Ramsey, who was not following the book. And as to which style I would copy, which style I would emulate, definitely Hunter, because Hunter was a man who was very calm. He knew how to. He was very precise in what he did. He was very relaxed. And so with me and my personal experiences, I know just how important having a calm demeanor is. And to me that says a lot about him. And so, for example, when the crew helped break him out during the initial mutiny, it just said a lot to knowing that a lot of the crew were actually with him and went out of their way to break him out. He definitely shows a lot of emotional control. So as I said, from my experience, emotional control is very important. During the EAM incident, Ramsey wanted to launch the missiles even though he didn't have the message that was not completely decrypted. Hunter thought it through and he knew that this wasn't something that should have been done. And so the fact that he showed control during that is very important, and it just shows that he is someone who is very aware of his own emotions. So when we look at Kelly's followership styles, he describes 5 leaders. One of them is the alienated followers. They do things by the book. They really don't pick sides, and they're willing to play the devil's advocate. And so one of those examples is Cobb during the EAM incident. He even told Hunter he went along with him, not because he was his friend, but because Hunter was actually following the book and Ramsey was not, and he wasn't okay with that. Conformist followers, they just easily go along with everything. An example of that is just the typical crew. Pragmatists, they adapt to the situation just to get out of trouble. Sadly, an example of that is Wepps. He went along with the mutiny to overthrow his own friend, and so that just shows that he will get into a situation just to get out of trouble. Passive followers look to their leader for an order. An example of that is Bobby, who went to Captain Ramsey and agreed to help break him out. Effective followers, they think for themselves. That's definitely Hunter. Hunter thought for himself during the incident, during the EAM incident. And so the example that I wanted to give as to the scene was during the fire incident initially in the movie, towards the beginning of the movie. So the fire broke out, and he participated in helping putting the fire out. Well, Ramsey decided that he wanted to have a drill in the middle of it. He didn't agree with it, but he went along with it regardless. And after the incident was over with, he told Ramsey that he didn't particularly agree with him, but he went along with it anyway. And so Ramsey told him, he sat down with him and said that he told him that the reason they were fighting is to preserve democracy, not to enact it, not to follow it. And so that just showed that Ramsey was definitely a lot more task-oriented, didn't care for his followers, didn't care for emotions. And so I think that Hunter should not have done that. He should have maintained his status as an effective follower rather than becoming a pragmatist. He just adapted to the situation. He should have maintained being a pragmatist. So in summary, what I talked about was Captain Ramsey and Hunter's leadership styles. I also followed that up with which one I would emulate, and I said that I would definitely emulate Hunter any day. And then I talked about the incident, which was the fire incident, and how Hunter should not have changed his followership style.